Maya Chen adjusted her environmental suit's water recycler for the third time that morning. The red desert of Kepler 442b stretched endlessly before her, broken only by strange crystalline formations that jutted from the ground like frozen lightning. She had been walking for 6 hours, following the faint energy readings her scanner had detected from orbit. The mining corporation had sent her here alone, which should have been her first warning. Kepler 442b was supposed to be dead, just another barren rock in humanity's ever-expanding search for rare minerals. But the energy signatures didn't match anything in the database. And Maya's curiosity had always been stronger than her common sense. Her boots crunched against the metallic sand as she climbed a ridge overlooking a vast crater. The scanner in her hand began beeping frantically, its screen showing energy levels that made no sense. Whatever was down there was producing more power than a small fusion reactor. Yet the planet had been surveyed dozens of times over the past century. Maya descended into the crater carefully, noting how the air shimmered with heat despite the planet's thin atmosphere. The source of the energy readings became clear as she rounded a massive boulder. Before her lay what could only be described as a dragon, though unlike anything from Earth's mythology. The creature was enormous, easily 50 meters from nose to tail. Its scales were a deep blue-black that seemed to absorb light, and along its spine ran a series of crystalline formations that pulsed with inner fire. But what struck Maya most was not the dragon's size or alien beauty. It was the obvious signs of suffering. The dragon's great head lay pressed against the ground, its eyes closed. Its breathing was labored, and the crystal formations along its back flickered weakly. Around the creature, the ground was scarred and blackened, as if it had thrashed in agony for years. Maya approached slowly, her heart pounding. The scanner showed that the dragon was the source of the energy readings, but the levels were dropping steadily. Whatever this creature was, it was dying. As if sensing her presence, the dragon's eyes opened. They were like liquid starlight, ancient and intelligent beyond measure. When the dragon spoke, its voice resonated not through Maya's ears, but directly in her mind. "Human child," the voice whispered, weak, but filled with desperate hope. "After so many ages of thirst, you have come." Maya stumbled backward, her hand instinctively reaching for the emergency beacon on her belt. But something in the dragon's mental voice stopped her. There was no malice there, only a bone-deep weariness and a plea that seemed to echo across centuries. "You can hear me," the dragon continued, and Maya could sense its surprise. "Most of your kind cannot. This is unexpected. What are you?" Maya managed to ask aloud, though she somehow knew the dragon would hear her thoughts regardless. "I am Zorith, last of the Void Shepherds. Once my people guided the young races across the galaxy, teaching them to reach for the stars. But that was before the Great Dying, before the thirst began." The dragon's massive head shifted slightly, and Maya could see the exhaustion in every movement. "Thirst?" Maya asked, taking a cautious step closer. "We require a substance your people call quantum fluid, the essence that allows faster-than-light travel. Without it, we diminish. I have been trapped here for 3,000 of your years, surviving on the planet's meager energy, but it is not enough. I am the last, and soon even that will end." Maya's mind raced. Quantum fluid was the most precious substance in human space, the key to their expansion among the stars. It was found in trace amounts in certain stellar phenomena, but extracting it required massive industrial operations. The idea that this creature needed it to survive seemed impossible. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. The dragon's eyes fixed on her, and for a moment Maya felt the weight of millennia pressing down on her consciousness. "Because I sense something in you that I have not felt in eons, the spark of true compassion. Your species is young, but in your youth lies a strength my people forgot. You do not turn away from suffering, even when it belongs to something you do not understand." Maya looked at the dying creature before her, and despite every instinct telling her to call for extraction, she found herself asking, "What would you need me to do?" "There is quantum fluid in this system. Your people's ships carry it. If I could access even a small amount, I could stabilize long enough to reach the void streams and perhaps find others of my kind, if any remain." Zorith's mental voice grew fainter. "But I understand this is much to ask of a stranger. Your people see us as myths if they remember us at all." Maya's scientific training warred with something deeper in her heart. The quantum fluid in her ship's drive core was worth more than her entire salary for a decade. Tampering with it would be career suicide, and that was assuming she survived the process. But as she looked into those ancient, starlight eyes, Maya realized she had already made her choice. The universe was vast and filled with wonders beyond imagination, but it was also lonely. If there was a chance to save the last of a species that had once guided younger races to the stars, how could she walk away? "I have a ship in orbit," she said quietly. "It's not much, but it has a quantum drive core. I don't know how to extract the fluid safely, but—" The dragon's eyes brightened, and for the first time Maya sensed something like hope in its mental voice. "You would truly risk this for a creature you have just met?" Maya smiled, surprising herself with the steadiness of her own voice. "My grandmother always said that the measure of a person isn't what they do when it's easy, but what they do when it's hard and no one is watching. Besides," she added, checking her suit's power levels, "I've always been terrible at following corporate protocols." Zorith's massive head lifted slightly from the ground, and the crystals along its spine pulsed a bit brighter. "Then perhaps there is hope yet, young human. Perhaps the universe has not forgotten compassion entirely." As Maya activated her communicator to contact her ship's automated systems, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was about to change not just her own life, but the course of history itself. The last dragon of an ancient race lay dying before her, and somehow, impossibly, she was the only one who could help. The red sun of Kepler 442b hung low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the crater. Maya took a deep breath and began the most important work of her life. Maya's fingers trembled as she worked with her ship's remote access panel, trying to override safety protocols that had been built into human technology for good reason. The quantum drive core of her small survey vessel contained barely enough fluid for the return journey to Earth, but Zorith had assured her that even a small amount would be enough to stabilize his condition. "The extraction must be done carefully," Zorith's voice whispered in her mind, though his mental tone was growing weaker by the hour. "Quantum fluid exists in a state between dimensions. Disturb it too roughly, and it will phase out of this reality entirely." Maya wiped sweat from her brow despite the planet's cool temperature. "I'm a geologist, not a quantum engineer. I'm working with salvaged equipment and a maintenance manual I downloaded from the ship's computer." "Yet you persist," Zorith observed, and Maya could sense his amazement. "Most beings would have given up by now, or called for help from their authorities." "My authorities would either think I'm crazy or try to capture you for study," Maya replied, carefully adjusting the field generator she had cobbled together from her mining equipment. "Humans have a complicated relationship with things they don't understand." Through their mental link, Maya felt Zorith's agreement. "Yes, I have observed your species from afar. You are capable of great cruelty, but also of unexpected kindness. It is why I chose to reveal myself to you rather than remain hidden until death took me." Maya paused in her work. "You've been watching us. For the past 2 centuries since your people first achieved faster-than-light travel, we had hoped that perhaps a younger race might succeed where we failed. Your expansion across the galaxy follows patterns we recognize, but there is something different about humanity. You carry your compassion with you to the stars, even as you carry your conflicts." The field generator hummed to life, and Maya's scanner showed that she had successfully created a containment field around a small portion of the quantum fluid. Now came the dangerous part, extracting it without destabilizing the entire drive core. "Tell me about your people," Maya said, needing the distraction as she began the delicate extraction process. "What were the Void Shepherds like?" Zorith's massive form shifted slightly, and Maya felt a wave of ancient sadness wash over her. "We were old when your son was young. We emerged from the spaces between stars, born from the quantum foam itself. For millions of years, we guided developing civilizations, teaching them to reach beyond their home worlds without destroying themselves or others." Maya's hands moved steadily despite her fascination. The quantum fluid began to separate from the drive matrix, glowing with an inner light that seemed to exist in colors she had no names for. "What happened to them?" "To your people?" "The Devourer Wars," Zorith replied, his mental voice heavy with grief. "An ancient machine intelligence that consumed entire star systems, converting matter into pure energy for purposes we never understood. We fought it for 1,000 years, and in the end we won. But the cost—" The dragon's pain was so intense that Maya nearly dropped her equipment. Through their link, she experienced flashes of memory, Vast space battles, entire worlds going dark, and dragons like Zorith falling one by one until only scattered survivors remained. The war drained our reserves of quantum essence, Zorith continued. Without it, we began to fade. Some tried to enter the void streams and never returned. Others, like myself, were stranded on distant worlds, slowly dying of the thirst. I have not sensed another of my kind in over a millennium. Maya's extraction device beeped softly, indicating success. Before her floated a sphere of contained quantum fluid no larger than her fist, but it pulsed with energy that made her scanner readings spike wildly. "I've got it," she said, hardly believing her own words. Zorith's eyes opened wider and the crystalline formations along his spine began to glow more brightly. "You have done something remarkable, Maya Chen. In 3,000 years, you are the first being to show me such kindness." Maya carefully carried the containment field toward the dragon, her heart pounding with excitement and terror in equal measure. "How do we do this? How do you absorb it?" "Place it near my primary crystal," Zorith instructed, indicating the largest of the formations on his spine. "I will do the rest." As Maya approached the crystal, she could feel the quantum fluid responding to Zorith's presence. The sphere began to resonate, and the air around them shimmered with energy distortions. "This may be intense," Zorith warned. "Our link will deepen during the absorption. You may experience some of my memories." Before Maya could ask what that meant, Zorith began to absorb the quantum fluid. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Light exploded from every crystal on the dragon's body, and Maya felt herself pulled into a consciousness older than human civilization. She saw the galaxy as Zorith had seen it millions of years ago, young races taking their first tentative steps toward the stars, guided by gentle dragons who appeared as gods or angels in their mythologies. She felt the joy of watching a species achieve faster than light travel for the first time, the satisfaction of preventing wars that could have destroyed entire systems. But she also experienced the horror of the Devourer Wars. She saw machine fleets that blotted out stars, felt the deaths of countless dragons as they sacrificed themselves to save younger races. She understood with crystal clarity why Zorith was the last. When the vision ended, Maya found herself on her knees in the sand, tears streaming down her face. Zorith had raised his great head from the ground, and his eyes now blazed with renewed vitality. The crystals along his spine pulsed steadily, no longer flickering with weakness. "Thank you," Zorith said, and his mental voice was stronger than it had been since Maya first found him. "You have given me time, perhaps years instead of days. But more than that, you have given me hope." Maya struggled to her feet, still reeling from what she had experienced. "Those memories, all those civilizations you helped. Why didn't humanity know about you?" "Because we learned long ago that direct contact often harms young races more than it helps. Better to guide from the shadows, to nudge development in positive directions without creating dependency." Zorith's great head turned toward the sky, where Maya's ship was a distant speck in orbit. "But perhaps it is time for that to change." "What do you mean?" Zorith looked back at her, and Maya could see something new in those ancient eyes. Not just hope, but purpose. "Your people stand at a crossroads, Maya Chen. You have the power to spread across the galaxy, but also the power to destroy yourselves and others. The choices you make in the coming centuries will determine not just humanity's fate, but the fate of countless species yet to achieve sentience." Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the planet's temperature. "And you want to help guide us?" "If you will have me," Zorith replied. "One dragon cannot do what an entire species once accomplished, but perhaps one dragon and one human can begin something new. A partnership between old wisdom and young courage." As Maya looked up at her ship and then back at the magnificent creature before her, she realized that her life had just taken a turn that would echo through history. The mining corporation that had sent her here expected a report on mineral deposits. Instead, she would return with the last survivor of an ancient race and a proposal that could change humanity's place in the universe forever. The only question was whether her own species would have the wisdom to listen. Maya paced back and forth in the crater, her mind racing as she tried to process the magnitude of what Zorith was proposing. The dragon watched her with patient eyes, his renewed strength evident in the steady glow of his spine crystals. "You're talking about revealing yourself to all of humanity," Maya said, stopping to face the enormous creature. "Do you have any idea what that would mean? The panic, the political chaos, the religious upheaval? Some people would worship you, others would want to dissect you. Zorth's mental voice carried a note of gentle amusement. I am older than your entire civilization, young Maya. I have witnessed the birth and death of species, watched empires rise and fall across the galaxy. Yes, I understand the risks, but I also understand the cost of inaction. Maya activated her portable terminal and pulled up star charts of human space. Look at this, she said, projecting the holographic display between them. We control over 200 star systems now. We're expanding faster than any species in recorded galactic history. We're already having conflicts with other races. The Centauri trade wars, the Vegan border disputes. How is one dragon going to change any of that? By teaching you what we taught all the others, Zorth replied, studying the star map with interest. How to recognize the difference between expansion and conquest. How to approach other species as potential partners rather than obstacles or resources. How to avoid the mistakes that destroyed civilizations far older and more powerful than yours. Maya highlighted several red zones on the map. These are areas where we've already had military conflicts with other species. The Hegemony Council is pushing for more aggressive expansion policies. They believe that human technological superiority gives us the right to take what we need. Zorth's eyes flared brighter, and Maya felt a wave of concern through their mental link. This pattern? I have seen it before. The Rakari Empire followed this same path 8 million years ago. They conquered half the galaxy before they encountered something that conquered them in return. What happened to them? They ceased to exist, Zorth said simply. Not just their empire, their entire species. When you expand through force, you inevitably encounter a greater force. The universe has a way of humbling those who believe might makes right. Maya sat down on a nearby rock, the weight of galactic history pressing down on her shoulders. So what are you suggesting? That we slow down expansion? The corporations and colonial governments would never accept that. Earth's resources are depleted and the colonies need room to grow. I am not suggesting you stop expanding, Zorth clarified. I am suggesting you learn to expand wisely. There are techniques for sustainable growth, methods for approaching other species that benefit everyone involved. The galaxy is vast enough for many races to thrive if they can learn to coexist. Maya's terminal chimed with an incoming message from her ship. The automated systems were reporting that her quantum drive core was critically low on fuel, a direct result of her earlier extraction. She would have perhaps 24 hours before her ship's orbit decayed and crashed into the planet. I need to get back to my ship, Maya said, standing up. But even if I wanted to help you make contact with humanity, I don't know how. I'm a corporate survey geologist. I have no connections to government or military leadership. Zorth rose to his full height, and Maya was struck again by the creature's magnificent presence. With his strength renewed, the dragon seemed to radiate power and ancient wisdom. You underestimate yourself, Maya-Chen. You have already done something no human has done in 3,000 years. You have saved a void shepherd. That act alone will carry weight with those who need to hear this message. Assuming they believe me, Maya muttered, checking her suit's power levels. A talking dragon asking to help guide humanity's future? They'll think I suffered from oxygen deprivation or radiation exposure. Then perhaps, Zorth said, spreading his enormous wings for the first time since Maya had found him. I should accompany you to make the introduction personally. Maya stared in amazement as Zorth launched himself into the air with surprising grace for such a large creature. His wings, which had seemed almost vestigial while he lay dying, now caught the thin atmosphere and generated lift through some method that defied her understanding of aerodynamics. You can fly in space? Maya asked through their mental link. Void shepherds are creatures of the quantum foam, Zorth replied, circling above the crater. We exist partially outside normal space-time. Vacuum and atmosphere make little difference to us, though the journey to your ship will require some of my newly restored energy. Maya activated her emergency beacon, signaling her ship to prepare for pickup. As the small vessel descended from orbit, she wondered if she was making the right choice. In the span of a single day, she had gone from a routine mineral survey to potentially changing the course of human history. Are you certain about this? She asked as Zorth landed beside her with surprising gentleness. I am certain that doing nothing guarantees failure, the dragon replied. Your species stands where the Rakari once stood, where dozens of other races have stood throughout galactic history. Most chose the path of conquest and paid the ultimate price. A few chose the path of cooperation and still flourish among the stars today. Maya's ship touched down in a swirl of dust and superheated air. The small survey vessel looked ridiculously fragile next to Zorith's magnificent form, like a child's toy beside a mountain. "The ship's cargo bay can be reconfigured to accommodate you," Maya said, running calculations on her terminal. "But it's going to be a tight fit and we'll need to reroute life support systems." "I require no atmosphere," Zorith reminded her. "And I can compress my form somewhat if necessary. The greater concern is your fuel situation. The journey to Earth will require more quantum fluid than you currently possess." Maya's heart sank as she realized the truth of his words. Her ship barely had enough fuel to reach the nearest human outpost, let alone Earth. "So we're stuck here after all." "Not necessarily," Zorith said, his eyes gleaming with something that might have been mischief. "I mentioned that I exist partially outside normal space-time. With physical contact to your vessel, I can extend that property to encompass your ship. We can travel through the void streams directly." "The what?" "Quantum tunnels that connect distant points in space. Your people use them unconsciously when you engage your faster-than-light drives. But you do so crudely, like insects bumping against a window. I can navigate them precisely, reducing a months-long journey to mere hours." Maya stared at the dragon in amazement. "You're talking about technology that's centuries beyond anything we have. Maybe millennia beyond." "Not technology," Zorith corrected. "Evolution. My people became the void streams over millions of years of adaptation. It is as natural to me as walking is to you." As Maya began the process of reconfiguring her ship's cargo bay, she realized that she was no longer just saving an ancient creature from extinction. She was potentially giving humanity access to methods of space travel that could revolutionize their expansion across the galaxy. But with that opportunity came enormous responsibility. The knowledge Zorith possessed could make humanity the dominant force in the galaxy, or it could lead them down the same path that had destroyed countless civilizations before them. As her ship's systems came online, and Zorith carefully maneuvered himself into the enlarged cargo space, Maya made a silent promise to herself. Whatever happened next, she would do everything in her power to ensure that humanity chose wisely. The fate of not just her species, but potentially countless others might depend on the choices made in the coming days. The last Void Shepherd was coming to Earth, and the galaxy would never be the same. The journey through the void streams was unlike anything Maya had ever experienced. One moment they were lifting off from the barren surface of Kepler 442b, and the next they were sliding through corridors of twisted space-time that hurt to look at directly. Her ship's instruments went haywire, displaying readings that violated every law of physics she knew. "Do not attempt to understand what you are seeing," Zorith's voice whispered gently in her mind. "Human consciousness is not equipped to process travel through dimensions that exist between dimensions. Simply trust that we will arrive safely." Maya closed her eyes and focused on breathing steadily as reality bent around them. Through their mental link, she could feel Zorith navigating currents of quantum energy that flowed between distant stars like rivers of liquid possibility. The dragon's consciousness touched hers occasionally, sharing fragments of sensation that translated into concepts her mind could barely grasp. After what felt like hours but registered on her chronometer as only 17 minutes, normal space suddenly reasserted itself around them. Maya's viewscreen showed the familiar blue marble of Earth hanging against the starfield, looking exactly as it had when she left 3 weeks ago. "Impossible," Maya breathed, checking her navigation systems. "We traveled 47 light-years in 17 minutes. She struggled with the mathematics. "That's nearly 1,500 times faster than our best drives." "The void streams exist outside normal space-time," Zorith explained, his mental voice carrying a note of satisfaction. "Distance becomes irrelevant when you travel between the spaces where distance has meaning. It is how my people were able to guide so many civilizations across the galaxy simultaneously." Maya's communication system crackled to life as Earth's orbital defense grid detected her ship's sudden appearance. "Survey Vessel Chen 47, this is Luna Control. Please identify yourself and explain your unscheduled arrival in Earth space." Maya hesitated before responding. How did one explain traveling with a dragon through quantum tunnels? "Luna Control, this is Maya Chen returning from the Kepler 442b survey mission. I have critical findings that require immediate attention from the highest authorities. Chen 47, our records show you departed with enough fuel for a 6-month mission. Your scheduled return isn't for another 11 weeks. Please explain your early arrival and current fuel status. Through the cargo bay's internal cameras, Maya could see Zorith listening intently to the radio exchange. His spine crystals pulsed in what she was beginning to recognize as a pattern indicating deep thought. Tell them you discovered something that required immediate reporting, Zorith suggested. The truth simply incomplete. Luna Control, I discovered evidence of non-human intelligence on Kepler 442b. The nature of this discovery requires immediate briefing with colonial authority. Leadership. The silence that followed stretched for nearly a minute before a different voice came on the channel. Chen 47, this is Admiral Harrison of Colonial Defense Command. You are ordered to proceed directly to Luna Station for immediate debriefing. Any deviation from this course will result in escort by military vessels. Maya glanced at Zorith through the camera feed. The dragon's ancient eyes seemed almost amused by the exchange. Will they accept you bringing a guest to this debriefing? He asked. They won't have much choice, Maya replied. Programming a course for Luna Station. Once they see you, denying your existence will be rather difficult. As they approached the massive orbital facility, Maya felt her nervousness growing. Luna Station served as headquarters for both Colonial Defense Command and the Hegemony Council's military operations. These were people who had built their careers on human expansion and technological superiority. The revelation that an ancient alien species had been watching and guiding galactic development would challenge everything they believed about humanity's place in the universe. Are you ready for this? Maya asked as they docked with the station. I have waited 3,000 years for this moment, Zorith replied. I am as ready as one can be to either save a species or watch them choose their own destruction. The docking bay was filled with security personnel when Maya disembarked. Admiral Harrison was a stern woman in her 60s, with silver hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. Behind her stood Dr. Elizabeth Kane, the Hegemony Council's chief xenobiologist, and General Marcus Webb, whose reputation for aggressive expansion policies was well known throughout human space. Dr. Chen, Admiral Harrison said formally, your report mentioned non-human intelligence. Where is this evidence? Maya took a deep breath and gestured toward her ship's cargo bay. Admiral, I need you to understand that what you're about to see will challenge everything we thought we knew about our place in the galaxy. I'm asking you to keep an open mind. General Webb stepped forward impatiently. Dr. Chen, we've pulled our top people away from critical operations for this briefing. If you've discovered evidence of hostile alien activity, we need to know immediately. Not hostile, Maya said, activating the cargo bay doors. Quite the opposite, actually. The massive doors slid open, revealing Zorith in all his magnificent splendor. The dragon had arranged himself as non-threateningly as possible, but there was no disguising his size or the obvious intelligence in his starlight eyes. The spine crystals glowed softly in the bay's artificial lighting, casting shifting patterns across the metal walls. Dr. Kane stumbled backward, her scientific instruments clattering to the floor. General Webb's hand moved instinctively toward his sidearm, before he seemed to realize how useless the gesture would be against a creature of Zorith's size. Admiral Harrison, to her credit, maintained her composure despite her obvious shock. Dr. Chen, please tell me this is an elaborate hologram. I am quite real, Admiral Harrison, Zorith said, his mental voice reaching all of them simultaneously. Maya watched with fascination as each person reacted to suddenly hearing a voice inside their head. And I come not as a conqueror, but as a teacher. General Webb drew his weapon despite its obvious inadequacy. It's telepathic. This could be some form of mental attack. General, Zorith said calmly, if I wished you harm, your weapon would be of no use. I am older than your civilization and possess abilities your species does not yet understand. But I have come here seeking cooperation, not conflict. Dr. Kane had recovered enough to activate her recording equipment with shaking hands. The linguistic patterns. It's communicating in perfect standard English, but I'm not detecting any vocal emissions. How is this possible? Because I'm speaking directly to your consciousness, Zorith explained patiently. It is how my people have always communicated with younger races. Language barriers become meaningless when thoughts can be shared directly. Admiral Harrison held up a hand for silence, her military training allowing her to process the impossible situation with remarkable efficiency. Assuming you are what you appear to be, why have you revealed yourself to us? Why now? Zorith's great head turned to focus on the Admiral. and Maya felt the weight of the dragon's attention like a physical presence. Because your species has reached a critical juncture in its development, you have the power to spread across the galaxy, but you lack the wisdom to do so without destroying yourselves and others. I am here to offer guidance, as my people once did for countless races before you. General Webb's face flushed with anger. Guidance? Humanity has conquered the stars through our own strength and ingenuity. We don't need help from some ancient relic. Tell me, General, Zorith said, his mental voice carrying a hint of sadness. How many species has humanity come into conflict with since you achieved faster-than-light travel? That's classified information, Webb snapped. 17, Zorith continued as if the general hadn't spoken. 17 species you've encountered, and with 14 of them you've had military conflicts. This pattern leads inevitably to catastrophe. Maya stepped forward, sensing the tension in the room reaching a breaking point. He's not here to conquer us or control us. He's offering to teach us how to expand without making the mistakes that destroyed other civilizations. Isn't that worth considering? Dr. Kane was studying her instruments with growing excitement. Admiral, the energy readings from this creature are off the charts. If we could understand the technology, or biology, behind those crystals, it could revolutionize our understanding of faster-than-light travel. You see, Zorith said, his mental voice carrying gentle amusement. Already your people begin to think of me as a resource to be exploited rather than a teacher to be learned from. This too is part of the pattern I have observed in many species. Admiral Harrison looked from Zorith to Maya to her assembled staff, clearly struggling to process the implications of what she was facing. Dr. Chen, this creature was Zorith. What exactly is he proposing? Maya took a deep breath, knowing that her next words might determine the fate of both species. He's proposing a partnership, Admiral. Ancient wisdom combined with human innovation. A chance for humanity to learn from the mistakes of other species and find a better path to the stars. The silence in the docking bay stretched for long moments as the most powerful military leaders in human space grappled with a choice that would echo through history. Maya could feel Zorith's patient presence in her mind, waiting to see whether humanity would choose wisdom or repeat the tragic patterns that had destroyed so many civilizations before them. The fate of two species hung in the balance, and the next words spoken would determine which path the future would take. The emergency session of the Hegemony Council convened 6 hours later in the highest security chamber on Luna Station. Maya found herself seated at a table surrounded by the most powerful humans in the galaxy, while Zorith occupied a specially cleared section of the chamber, his presence dominating the room despite his efforts to appear non-threatening. Chancellor Rebecca Torres, head of the Hegemony Council, studied the ancient dragon with barely concealed fascination and fear. Around the table sat the leaders of major colonial governments, corporate executives who controlled interstellar trade, and military commanders responsible for humanity's expanding borders. Ladies and gentlemen, Chancellor Torres began, her voice carefully controlled, we are facing an unprecedented situation. This being claims to be the last survivor of an ancient species that once guided galactic development. Dr. Chen, please summarize your encounter for the Council. Maya stood nervously, acutely aware that every word she spoke was being recorded and analyzed by some of the sharpest minds in human space. She recounted her discovery of Zorith, their mental connection, and the dragon's proposal for partnership between their species. And you believe this creature is telling the truth? Asked Director Yamamoto of the Colonial Mining Consortium. I've shared his memories, Maya replied. I've seen glimpses of galactic history that span millions of years. The knowledge he possesses about space travel, about other species, about the patterns of rise and fall that civilizations follow. It's beyond anything we could fake or imagine. General Webb leaned forward aggressively. Even if this creature is what it claims to be, why should we trust it? For all we know, this is an elaborate deception designed to make us lower our guard before an invasion. Zorith's mental voice reached everyone in the chamber simultaneously, causing several council members to shift uncomfortably in their seats. General Webb, if my people wished to harm humanity, we would not need deception. I could disable every ship in your fleet simply by disrupting their quantum drive cores from a distance. The fact that I have revealed myself openly should demonstrate my peaceful intentions. That sounds suspiciously like a threat, Webb shot back. It is merely a statement of capability, Zorith replied calmly. Your weapons technology is impressive by the standards of young races. But we mastered the forces you were only beginning to understand when your star was still condensing from cosmic dust. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the Council's chief scientific advisor, had been quietly studying her instruments throughout the exchange. Chancellor, I've been analyzing the energy patterns emanating from this creature. The quantum field manipulations alone suggest technology centuries beyond our current capabilities. If even a fraction of what it claims is true, the implications for human advancement are staggering. Maya sensed an opportunity and stepped forward. That's exactly the point, Dr. Mitchell. Zorith isn't offering to solve our problems for us. He's offering to teach us to solve them ourselves, to avoid the mistakes that have destroyed other species. What mistakes? Demanded Admiral Chen, recently promoted after the Vegan border conflicts. Humanity has been remarkably successful in our expansion. We've established colonies in over 200 systems and dealt with hostile alien species when necessary. Zorith's spine crystals pulsed brighter, and Maya felt waves of ancient sadness flowing from the dragon's mind. Admiral, may I show you something that your people have not yet discovered? The dragon's eyes began to glow, and suddenly the chamber's holographic display activated without any human input. A three-dimensional star map appeared showing a section of the galaxy Maya didn't recognize. This was the Rakari Empire 8 million years ago, Zorith explained. They controlled over 10,000 star systems and had defeated every species they encountered through superior technology and military might. They believed, as some of your leaders believe, that strength gave them the right to take what they needed. The star map shifted, showing the same region but with vast dark zones where systems had once existed. This is the same region today. The Rakari pushed their expansion until they encountered something that could not be conquered. In their desperation, they deployed weapons that destabilized entire star systems. The civilization that defeated them was equally ruthless in their retaliation. Chancellor Torres stared at the display in horror. Entire star systems are gone? Over 3 million inhabited worlds, Zorith confirmed. Two species that might have flourished for millions of years instead destroyed each other completely. This pattern has repeated countless times throughout galactic history. Director Chen of the Terraforming Authority raised her hand nervously. But surely not every species follows this pattern. You mentioned others that still exist. Indeed, Zorith said, and the star map changed again. The ethereals of the Andromeda approach the crystal minds of the core worlds, the symbiont collectives of the outer rim. All species that learn to expand through cooperation rather than conquest. They encountered the same challenges humanity now faces, but they chose differently. Maya watched the faces around the table, seeing a mixture of fascination, fear, and calculation in their expressions. These were people accustomed to thinking in terms of advantage and competition, struggling to process the concept of galactic cooperation. What specific changes are you proposing? Chancellor Torres asked finally. Zorith's great head turned toward her, and Maya felt the dragon choosing his words carefully. First, establish protocols for first contact that prioritize understanding over advantage. When you encounter new species, approach them as potential partners rather than obstacles or resources. Second, share technological advances with allied species rather than hoarding them for competitive advantage. Third, focus your expansion on uninhabited systems when possible, rather than displacing existing civilizations. General Webb slammed his hand on the table. That's absurd. You're asking us to hobble our own expansion for the benefit of aliens we've never met. Humanity's survival depends on securing resources and strategic territories. Humanity's survival depends on learning to thrive alongside other species, Zorith replied firmly. The galaxy is vast enough for many races to flourish, but only if they can learn to coexist. The alternative is the fate of the Rakari. Dr. Mitchell was studying her readings again. Chancellor, I need to point out something crucial. This being traveled from Kepler 442b to Earth in less than 20 minutes. If the navigation techniques it described are real, they could revolutionize human space travel. We could explore the entire galaxy in decades rather than millennia. Maya saw the greed in several council members' eyes and felt a chill of recognition. This was exactly the pattern Zorith had warned about, seeing the dragon as a resource to be exploited rather than a teacher to be learned from. The knowledge I possess cannot be simply transferred, Zorith said, apparently reading their thoughts. The void stream navigation techniques require evolutionary adaptations that took my people millions of years to develop. But I can teach your scientists to work toward those adaptations, and in the meantime, I can provide limited transportation for diplomatic missions to other species. Chancellor Torres leaned back in her chair, clearly struggling with the magnitude of the decision before them. This is beyond the authority of the Council alone. A choice this significant requires input from the colonial governments, the corporate boards, and ultimately the people of humanity. While you deliberate, Zorith said, his mental voice carrying a note of urgency. Events in the galaxy continue to unfold. There are 3 species your expansion fleets will encounter within the next 5 years. How you approach those encounters will determine whether humanity follows the path of cooperation or the path of conquest. Maya felt the weight of galactic history pressing down on the chamber. The last Void Shepherd had offered humanity the wisdom of millions of years of experience, the chance to avoid the mistakes that had destroyed countless civilizations. But she could see the fear and suspicion in many of the Council members' faces, the ingrained human tendency to see difference as threat rather than opportunity. What guarantee do we have? General Webb asked suspiciously. That you won't simply leave once you've gotten what you want from us? Zorith's response carried such profound sadness that Maya felt tears forming in her eyes. General, I'm the last of my kind. Even if I could find others of my people, which is unlikely after so many millennia, I no longer have a species to return to. Humanity is my only hope of ensuring that the knowledge and wisdom of the Void Shepherds does not die with me. Your success or failure will determine whether 3 million years of accumulated wisdom is preserved or lost forever. The chamber fell silent, as the true scope of what Zorith was offering became clear. This wasn't just about human expansion or alien guidance. It was about the preservation of knowledge that had taken eons to accumulate, wisdom that could benefit not just humanity, but every species they would encounter among the stars. Maya looked around the table at the faces of the most powerful humans in the galaxy, knowing that their next decision would echo through history. The last dragon had offered them the stars, but would humanity have the courage and wisdom to accept the responsibility that came with such a gift? The future hung in the balance, waiting for humanity to choose its path among the infinite possibilities of the cosmos. 3 weeks after the council session, Maya found herself aboard the diplomatic vessel Unity's Hope, humanity's most advanced ship, as it approached the first test of their new partnership with Zorith. The dragon had warned them about the Crystalline Collective, a species they would encounter in the Proxima Centauri B system within months. Rather than wait for an accidental first contact that could lead to conflict, the Council had finally agreed to attempt a peaceful approach. The decision hadn't been easy. General Webb and his faction had fought tooth and nail against what they called alien interference in human affairs. It had taken Chancellor Torres using her emergency powers and a narrow vote by the colonial governors to approve the mission. Maya stood in the observation deck watching Zorith glide effortlessly through space alongside their ship. The dragon had chosen to travel outside the vessel, saying that the void streams were easier to navigate without the interference of human technology. His crystalline spines glowed against the star field like a constellation come to life. "Still can't believe we're doing this," muttered Captain Sarah Rodriguez, the ship's commanding officer. 3 months ago, the idea of following a dragon to make friends with aliens would have gotten you committed to a psychiatric facility. 3 months ago, we didn't know how close we were to repeating the mistakes of the Rakari Empire, Maya replied, checking her communication equipment. As the expedition's xenolinguist and Zorith's primary human contact, she would be crucial to the success of the mission. Dr. Elizabeth Kane joined them at the observation window, her excitement barely contained despite the magnitude of what they were attempting. "The readings from Zorith's navigation are unprecedented. He's manipulating quantum fields in ways our physicists are still trying to understand. If we can learn even the basics of his techniques, it will advance our space travel capabilities by centuries." Through her mental link with Zorith, Maya sensed the dragon's amusement at the scientist's enthusiasm. "Dr. Kane still thinks of me primarily as a source of technological advancement," his voice whispered in Maya's mind. "It will take time for your people to understand that the greatest knowledge I offer has nothing to do with machines or energy manipulation." "What do you mean?" Maya asked silently, The knowledge of how to build relationships that last across millennia. How to create trust between beings so different they might as well be from separate realities. How to see diversity as strength rather than threat. These lessons cannot be learned from studying my crystals or analyzing my void stream. Navigation. Maya felt the truth of his words as their ship emerged from faster-than-light travel in the Proxima Centauri B system. Before them hung a world that defied easy description. Its surface appeared to be covered in massive geometric structures that shifted and pulsed with inner light. The planet itself seemed to be alive, breathing with a rhythm that registered on their sensors. "Contact," announced Lieutenant Yates from the communication station. "Multiple signals on frequencies across the electromagnetic spectrum. Pattern suggests intelligence, but it's unlike anything in our linguistic databases." Captain Rodriguez looked to Maya uncertainly. "Dr. Chen, you're our expert on this. How do we approach?" Maya closed her eyes and reached out through her mental connection with Zorith. The dragon's consciousness touched hers, and suddenly she could sense the vast intelligence emanating from the planet below. It was nothing like human thought. Instead of individual minds, there seemed to be a collective awareness made up of millions of crystalline entities sharing a unified purpose. "They're afraid," Maya said, opening her eyes in surprise. "They've detected our approach and they're interpreting our presence as a potential threat." "How can you know that?" Dr. Kane asked, her instruments detecting nothing but electromagnetic noise. "Because Zorith is teaching me to sense the emotional resonances of other species," Maya explained. "The crystalline collective communicates through harmonic frequencies that carry emotional content as well as information. They're trying to determine whether we're explorers or invaders." Captain Rodriguez moved to the communication station. "Can you help us respond to them? Show them we come in peace?" Maya looked out at Zorith, who had positioned himself between their ship and the planet. "He's already working on it. Watch the frequency analyzers." The ship's instruments began picking up a new pattern in the electromagnetic noise, a complex harmony that seemed to pulse with the same rhythm as the planet's surface. Maya could feel Zorith projecting emotions of peace, curiosity, and respect toward the crystalline collective. "Incredible," Dr. Kane breathed. "He's modulating quantum field fluctuations to create harmonic frequencies that match their communication patterns. It's like he's speaking their language through pure mathematics." The response from the planet was immediate. The chaotic electromagnetic noise resolved into clear, beautiful patterns that reminded Maya of orchestral music, played in dimensions she couldn't quite perceive. Through Zorith, she could feel the collective consciousness below shifting from fear to cautious curiosity. "They want to know why we've come," Maya translated. "And they want to know about Zorith. They recognize him as something ancient and powerful, but they've never encountered his species before." "Tell them we seek peaceful contact," Captain Rodriguez instructed. "We want to learn about them and share knowledge." Maya relayed the message through her link with Zorith, feeling the dragon translate her words into the mathematical harmonies the crystalline collective could understand. The response that came back surprised everyone aboard the ship. "They're inviting us down to their world," Maya said, hardly believing it herself. "They say they've been waiting for contact with other sapient species, but all previous encounters with organic life forms have ended badly." Dr. Kane was already preparing her equipment. "We need to study their ecosystem, their technology, their social structure. This could be the most significant first contact in human history." "It could also be a trap," warned Commander Hassan, the ship's security chief. "For all we know, they lure visitors down and then harvest them for resources." Maya felt Zorith's amusement at the suggestion. "The crystalline collective are silicon-based life forms that derive energy directly from their star," she explained. "They have no use for organic matter as a resource. If anything, they're probably more worried about us contaminating their environment than we should be about them harming us." Captain Rodriguez made her decision. "We'll send a small diplomatic team to the surface, Dr. Chen, Dr. Kane, and myself, along with a security detail. Zorith, can you provide transportation that won't alarm them?" The dragon's mental voice carried approval. "I can transport your shuttle through a controlled void stream transition. It will demonstrate our technological capabilities while showing respect for their invitation." As they prepared for the descent to the surface, Maya felt the weight of history settling on her shoulders. This would be humanity's first truly peaceful first contact with an alien species. No misunderstandings leading to conflict. no attempts to assert dominance or extract resources. Instead, they would approach the crystalline collective as Zorith had taught them, with respect, curiosity, and genuine desire for mutual benefit. The shuttle bay doors opened, revealing Zorith waiting in the vacuum of space. His spine crystals pulsed in perfect harmony with the frequencies emanating from the planet below, creating a bridge of communication between species separated by millions of years of evolution. As their shuttle launched into space, enveloped in Zorith's protective quantum field, Maya realized they were about to write a new chapter in the story of galactic civilization. Not the familiar tale of conquest and conflict that had destroyed so many species throughout history, but something unprecedented, the beginning of a true partnership between the young and the ancient, the organic and the crystalline, the human and the utterly alien. The surface of the crystalline world grew larger in their viewports, its geometric patterns shifting to create what could only be interpreted as a welcome. Maya felt hope blooming in her chest as she realized that perhaps, just perhaps, humanity was finally ready to take its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as partners in the vast community of sapient life that filled the galaxy. The age of human isolation was ending, and the era of galactic cooperation was about to begin. 5 years later, Maya stood in the observation deck of New Geneva Station, humanity's first truly multilateral space facility. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see vessels from 7 different species docked at the massive station, crystalline collective harmony ships that sang as they moved through space, biomechanical vessels from the symbiont collectives that seemed to grow rather than being built, and sleek human ships that now incorporated design elements learned from their new allies. Zorith floated in the space beyond the station, no longer alone. 3 other dragons had been found in the depths of space, survivors who had hidden in quantum stasis for millennia, waiting for a chance to emerge safely. They were younger than Zorith, born during the final years of the Devourer Wars, but they carried with them fragments of Void Shepherd, knowledge that had been thought lost forever. The Diplomatic Corps is reporting successful trade, negotiations with the ethereal collective, announced Ambassador Chen. No relation to Maya, despite the shared surname, as she joined Maya at the observation window. They're willing to share their atmospheric processing technology in exchange for our quantum computing advances. Maya smiled, remembering the fears and suspicions that had dominated that first council meeting. General Webb must be having nightmares. Sharing human technology with aliens was his greatest fear. Actually, Ambassador Chen said with a grin, Webb requested transfer to the new Exploration Command. Seems that discovering new worlds and building peaceful relationships is more exciting than planning for wars that never come. Through her enhanced mental link with Zorith, strengthened by 5 years of partnership, Maya could sense the dragon's satisfaction. The techniques he had taught human telepaths were allowing for unprecedented communication between species that had never been able to understand each other before. Maya, Zorith's voice whispered in her mind, I need to show you something important. Can you meet me in the station's central observation dome? Maya made her excuses to Ambassador Chen and made her way through the bustling corridors of New Geneva Station. The facility was a marvel of cooperative engineering, with sections designed by each member species to accommodate their different environmental needs. Human walkways connected to crystalline harmonic chambers, which led to symbiont biocorridors that pulsed with living light. The central observation dome was deserted when Maya arrived, offering a panoramic view of local space. Zorith was waiting for her, his massive form somehow fitting comfortably in the chamber that had been designed specifically for meetings between humans and Void Shepherds. You seem troubled, Maya said, settling into her favorite chair near the dragon's great head. Not troubled, Zorith replied, his mental voice carrying emotions too complex for simple translation. Hopeful but also concerned about what comes next. What do you mean? Zorith's spine crystals pulsed, and Maya felt herself being drawn into a shared vision. Suddenly she could see the galaxy as Zorith perceived it. Streams of quantum energy connecting every star system, patterns of light that showed the movement of civilizations across cosmic distances. Look there, Zorith directed her attention to a region of space far from human territory. The hegemonic union has been watching our success with great interest. They are one of the oldest surviving civilizations in the galaxy, and they have never approved of the guidance my people provided to younger races. Maya could see vast fleets of ships moving through the quantum streams, their designs angular and aggressive. They don't approve of what we're doing here? The hegemonic union believes that each species should sink or swim on its own merits. They see our cooperative approach as weakness, a corruption of natural selection. They have been expanding their territory, absorbing or destroying species that cannot defend themselves. Maya felt a chill of recognition. They're following the Rakari pattern. Worse, Zorith confirmed. The hegemonic union has access to weapons that could sterilize entire star systems. They survived the ancient wars not through wisdom, but through superior firepower and ruthless pragmatism. They view our alliance as a threat to the natural order. The vision shifted, showing Maya possible futures that branched out like a vast tree of possibility. In some branches, she saw the cooperative alliance expanding across the galaxy, bringing together hundreds of species in peaceful partnership. In others, she saw fleets of hegemonic ships reducing allied worlds to radioactive cinders. What can we do? Maya asked, pulling back from the overwhelming scope of galactic conflict. We can do what the Void Shepherds always did best, Zorith replied. We can teach, and we can hope that wisdom prevails over force. Over the following weeks, Maya found herself at the center of the most ambitious diplomatic effort in galactic history. Representatives from the allied species worked together to contact civilizations throughout the galaxy, offering the choice that Zorith had once offered to humanity: cooperation or the repeating cycle of conquest and destruction. The response was mixed. Some species eagerly joined the alliance, drawn by the promise of shared knowledge and mutual protection. Others remained neutral, preferring to wait and see how events unfolded. A few sided openly with the hegemonic union, believing that strength alone could guarantee survival. The irony, Dr. Kane observed during one of the strategy sessions, is that we're essentially fighting a war for peace, using all our diplomatic and technological resources to prevent a conflict that could destroy half the galaxy. Maya looked around the conference room at the assembled representatives, crystalline harmonizers whose thoughts moved in perfect synchronization, symbiont collective minds that spoke as one voice for billions of individual organisms, ethereal energy beings who existed partially in dimensions humans couldn't perceive. And at the center of it all, humanity, the youngest species in the room, but somehow serving as mediators between vastly different forms of consciousness. Maybe that's what we were meant to do, Maya said thoughtfully. Human psychology is uniquely suited for building bridges between different groups. We're social enough to understand cooperation, but individualistic enough to relate to species that value independence. We can see both sides of most conflicts. Zorith, who had been listening silently, projected a wave of approval through their link. This is why my people guided your development so carefully. We saw in humanity the potential to become what we had once been, shepherds who could help other species find their way among the stars. The first major test of the alliance came 6 months later when hegemonic Union forces attacked a neutral system that had been considering joining the Cooperation Pact. Maya watched the battle reports in horror as advanced weapons reduced 3 inhabited worlds to lifeless husks in a matter of hours. They're sending a message, announced Admiral Torres, who had been promoted to head the Alliance Defense Force. Join the Union or face destruction. Maya felt the familiar weight of galactic history pressing down on her. How do we respond without becoming what we're fighting against? The answer came from an unexpected source. The Crystalline Collective, who had never shown aggression toward any other species, proposed a solution that was both elegant and unprecedented. Instead of meeting force with force, they would create a quantum resonance field around threatened worlds, a protective barrier that would make hegemonic weapons useless without harming the attackers. Defensive only, Maya said, understanding the implications immediately. We protect those who want protection, but we don't strike back. We prove that strength doesn't have to mean dominance. The strategy worked better than anyone had dared hope. When hegemonic forces found their weapons ineffective against protected worlds, many of their own species began to question the wisdom of their leadership. Peaceful resistance spread throughout Union territory, and within 2 years, the aggressive expansion had ground to a halt. Maya stood once again in the observation dome of New Geneva Station, but now the view had changed dramatically. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species filled local space. representatives of a galactic alliance that had grown beyond anyone's wildest expectations. Was this what you hoped for when you first revealed yourself to me? Maya asked Zorith, who was accompanied now by his 3 fellow Void Shepherds. This exceeds my wildest hopes, Zorith replied, his mental voice carrying profound satisfaction. When I lay dying on Kepler 442b, I thought I was witnessing the end of wisdom in the galaxy. Instead, I was present at its rebirth. Maya felt the truth of his words resonating through the quantum streams that now connected thousands of worlds in peaceful partnership. Humanity had found its place among the stars not as conquerors, but as bridge builders and teachers. They had learned the lessons of the ancient Void Shepherds and added their own unique gift, the ability to see beyond differences and find common ground even between the most alien of minds. The last dragon was no longer alone, and neither was humanity. Together, they had helped create something unprecedented in galactic history. A civilization based not on power, but on cooperation. Not on fear, but on hope. Not on the dominance of the strong, but on the wisdom of those who chose to lift others up, rather than tear them down. As Maya watched ships from across the galaxy working together to explore new frontiers and share their discoveries,